Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our new normal webinar. Matt, do I have you? Here he comes.
I'm here. How are you?
Hey, Matt. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good, doing good.
Your dining room always looks so nice. Or is that a virtual background? I'm using a real background. I'm just saying, some of us go for the fake and some of us go for the real, right?
I mean, to be fair, that is my dining room. So I just happens to be in the other room.
That's right. It is. I see.
Yeah.
It's like an enigma. I don't know. There's something there. Hey, I see some folks are still logging in here, so we'll give it a minute or so. But let's see here. Let me move this out of the way. So Matt, you can hear me okay, right?
I can.
Sounds good. You sound good as well. I know, and you can see the slides, so I think we're good to go. Matt, I know that you're at home with your family. I'm at home with my family, right? This is what working from home is all about, right? And I think, as per my Apple time machine, every morning when I wake it up, it tells me how many days since it's been sitting with its external hard drive at the office. And I think today is day 71, which is kind of hard to believe. 71 days. I'm looking over here because this is where your picture is for some reason. My camera's here. I don't know. I'm going to have to move this to make this a little bit more natural. There we go. Much better.
There we go.
Anyway, and Matt, every week that we do this, so this is our fourth iteration of these webinars. We did telehealth, we did MMS, SMS, and we did a couple of variations on these themes because pretty rapidly as the weeks have gone on, we keep using this term new normal, like things are changing, right, in real time. And obviously working from home is one of the big ones. People that have never worked from home have now been working from home for an extended period of time. So let me go ahead and move this forward here and say, so when we started this 4 weeks ago, this is where we were. So if you type in COVID tracker in Google, you can get to this page. It's run by, well, in this case, it's the Lancet is showing, but it's a bunch of data sources all put together. And you can see here, we had about 2.1 million confirmed cases at that time, about 600K in the US. You look at the lower right, that's what we've been focused on, right, Matt, so we've seen this dramatic rise in people contracting COVID. We shut down most businesses in mid-March, and here we are in mid-May. And if we take a click ahead from 2.1, now we're at 4.3. And you notice in the lower right that it's still kind of flat. It's the infection rate really is not declining in a sort of a sustained way. It's kind of going up and down, right, Matt?
Yeah, it's definitely plateauing, and it's good that it's plateauing and not increasing. However, we still need it, obviously, to have that downfall. We're waiting for that.
Right. Yeah, and I think we're all counting on it doing that very soon, right? Like in the next 3 weeks, because I don't know about you, but I'd love to see a lot of things open up again for the fall at the latest, if not sooner. So with that in mind, obviously, again, 4 weeks ago, when we started it, we had already been in lockdown, Matt, you and I, and we're still in lockdown for the foreseeable future. Here in North Carolina, where thinQ is located, we're quote unquote stage 1 of reopening our state. It doesn't mean a lot, except, some very specific types of businesses are allowed to operate. Some things change. But at the same time, everybody's working from home who can work from home. And that's really what today is really all about, is kind of looking at that trend. So I think we can all identify with this. Matt, you in particular, you have 2 kids, right, at home? This is you, right? More or less?
More or less. That is me to a T, yes.
So I'm kind of lucky. I have an 18-year-old, and he can do all of his stuff on his own. So he's upstairs, so is my wife, and I get to take over this nice dining room. But really, as the world, we're continuing to really work around, the coronavirus. Office flexibility has really been key to keeping the businesses that are open, continuing to operate, and keeping employees productive. And, thanks to broadband internet and the cloud, we can really allow that to happen. And we're going to talk about some of the trends and some of these cloud tools that have really met the challenge of expanding capacity and allowing us to do this work from home. what I found interesting, Matt, was there was a whole bunch of studies that were done last year about people who telecommute. Now, I actually had the chance after my son was born in 2001 to actually work from home for 9 years before I came to work at my last company. And I still felt kind of like a fringe, guy who was able to work from home during those early 2000s. But now there's lots of managers and employees that have been exposed to telecommuting, and will probably continue to do it. It'd be very interesting to see, Matt, what impact this really has on the economy and employment in general. But I was going to say the study that was done last year is that only 70% of workers telecommuted at least one day of the week last year, which actually was a little bit higher than I thought. And there's a lot of people who work from home 1 or 2 days a week now as a natural part of their employment. But now, of course, that number is far higher, right? And I think I love this picture because this could be a student, this could be an employee. It's all the same nowadays, whether it's education or telecommuting. Really, telecommuting is really finally being seen as a flexibility opportunity for companies of all kinds who can operate virtually. I have 2 professors in the family, and they're doing all their education, all their classes this semester through Zoom and through Google Classroom and lots of other tools. And I also have other family members that are teachers at the K-12 level who are trying to do the same thing. And it's a challenge, but it's possible because of all these at-home technologies. But this flexibility that now companies have will allow them to actually retain employees right after COVID, because a lot of people really would like to have that better work-life balance. Telecommuting in a lot of studies actually has been shown to reduce sick days because the sick workers won't come into the office and spread their illness, but they'll also be able to do work from home, unless they get overly sick, and of course they won't be online. But businesses are really looking to this virtual technology to ensure that remote teams have all the tools that they need, access to all the right documents, and end customers who they may be serving. And the most urgent of the needs for these at-home employees is a communication system, that's consistent, easy to use, and budget-friendly, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And one of the first things I'd love to talk about is Slack. So Matt, I know you and I talk on Slack a whole bunch of times every day, right?
Yep.
And for those who don't know, Slack is really like, imagine it's like a big open chat room for everybody in your company. And it's so much more than that. So you can see here, you can see this little snapshot of it here in the bottom left-hand corner. Really Slack allows you to click on the name of any other employee in your company, send them a message, and they can reply in real time. But I love this too, man. In fact, this morning I've had 2 multi-person meetings with Slack, because you can just start chatting with somebody and say, hey, let's share a document and talk. You can hit the call button and you can actually start to communicate with them. And then there's a little button at the bottom that says share my screen. The next thing I know, I pulled in 2 other people, and we were, looking at a shared Google Doc, and it was very super simple. And that's what Slack is all about. And to be honest, Matt, the first time I came across Slack at my last company was because the senior management was really getting upset at the sheer amount of emails that they had to read every day. I don't know about you, Matt, but that feels like 5 or 10 years ago. I mean, our inboxes were just being flooded. And with Slack, most emails you can handle with a quick, ping. Maybe you have to wait an hour for an answer. But yeah, it's a great tool. So if you see at the bottom, really, it's really Slack is all about team collaboration. So real-time messaging, video, and video conferencing, right? All put together. And it's a critical part of how we run thinQ. I mean, we have channels both for ourselves internally, but also with a lot of our customers, right, Matt?
Yep. Yeah, we have at least 3 or 4, for some of our kind of big customers. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we have a network operations center. They have a network operations center, and there's some of our bigger clients. And they said, hey, if we have a question or an issue, we want to be able to interface with your people in real time. We're like, sure, we turned on one of those channels for that. And that gets right to our team. But let's go a little bit deeper here. Then we'll get into some of the tools. It'd be interesting to see. So this Stuart Butterfield is the CEO of Slack, and he posted this back, not that long ago, March 25th, to say, hey, take a look at what's been happening in the last couple of weeks. So Slack is a great example of a tool that was fairly niche up until COVID happened. And it's really changed because of, COVID locking down with a record number of people logging into the app. And just to be clear, their shares are actually up about 17% since COVID started. So it's had an impact on their business as an operator of this tool. And you can see here, this is pretty great. This is their internal tracking tool called Metron that shows the amount of newly connected users. So just on this day, March 16th, look at this, 7 a.m., 10 million users, 7:16, 10.6, 7:27, 10.7. It just kept going up and up and up as people were logging in to the tool. And they actually are now past 1 billion minutes a day of people communicating over Slack. I mean, if that doesn't tell you, this is just one niche tool that we haven't even really heard about in the news, because the one that we have heard a lot about in the news is Zoom, right, Matt? And we're using it right now. And by the way, the side story is that right now, if you use the dial-in numbers to get to this meeting, you're talking potentially over thinQ, because Zoom is actually a partner of ours. And we'll show you how we interop with them in a minute. But Zoom really has been the winner from, if you can say somebody won from this situation, but Zoom really has become the poster child for real-time collaboration. They've opened up their tool to schools as well as businesses. And what's interesting is, Matt, they've only been around since 2011. I feel like they've been around longer than that. And the CEO, Eric Yuan, actually came from WebEx, which is part of Cisco. So no surprise that this would be something that somebody from that sort of background would start. And right now, hey, Matt, do you know how much Zoom is worth right now? Do you have any idea what their net worth is?
Whatever I would estimate, probably a fraction of what it is at the moment.
Yeah, so my initial guess was like $10 billion. Like that would be like a huge stretch. Yeah. They're actually worth $39.3 billion. What a market cap. And, really, the CEO says, Eric said that he wants to be more than just a simple video conferencing application. He wants to really lean into more tools for collaborative work and online teaching, which you're starting to see some of that actually happen inside of the tool as the months have gone on. And how many of us have been on these, right? So it continues to break popularity records. And really, this lockdown is really turning, this simple video conferencing application, which was originally based on sort of rigid control of latency, because, everybody knows the original tools have just had such a problem with it, and Zoom is trying to address that. And now it's really turned into a superstar where we can kind of take a lot of that for granted. I can't remember the last time I was on a Zoom that had bad video or audio, even as they've scaled, right? It's been fantastic this entire time, which is kind of amazing when you think about all the different types of internet connections all of us have at home. It's just been rock solid. So, and actually, Matt, I don't know if you knew this, but 10,000 academic institutions are using Zoom now as of, the first week of May, when they actually did a poll. And, they're transitioning their academic activities online. And that, I think that bodes really well for Zoom. And we're continuing to see, obviously, a big increase in traffic for voice across the thinQ network. So when you guys dialed in today, you probably saw a bunch of these phone numbers, or DIDs, as many of us know. And again, a lot of these are powered by thinQ. You just didn't know it when you were dialing it, that you happen to be going across our network to and from Zoom. So that's how we connect with Zoom. Another thing to keep in mind, I know a lot of folks who registered for this webinar are in this place, which is, you're an enterprise and you have a VoIP system. And that's really where somebody like 3CX, for instance, Matt, that's obviously the system that we use at thinQ, and thousands of other companies use 3CX as well. And really, that's a way to take, both a simple desk phone as well as an iPhone or an Android phone and turn it into a voice over IP phone. So no more copper. I don't think most people don't have PSTNs anymore at their places of work. They're connected to the internet through something called SIP trunking, and connecting to, a third-party VoIP system. In our case, we're using 3CX, and you can usually use software instead of hardware to do this. And, Matt, that's what my phone looks like back at the office. It's been gathering tremendous amounts of dust back in Raleigh. And instead, we've got these, right? And that's what it looks like on the right-hand side. In fact, those are our actual extensions there. And so now when my iPhone rings, probably 95% of the time, it's not coming through the phone through Verizon. It's coming through 3CX, through voice over IP, and from thinQ, right, Matt? Same thing.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's the role that that we can play. So let's get into the content today, guys, of how thinQ can help you in this time and beyond, during COVID-19 with working from home, using a cloud system to power your communication. So really thinQ, we're all about delivering flexible, cost-effective voice and messaging, text messaging, in the cloud. We actually have now more than 1,200 partners, which is fantastic, in 14 different countries who trust us to provide those services, in the cloud. And really what's great about thinQ is, for all of you out there who already have a system in place, and I know most of you do, is as your needs scale, in a lot of cases, it's very expensive and time consuming, and it's a big headache to add capacity to your existing systems. And with thinQ, it's all done in the cloud, and the scale happens automatically across 40 different voice carriers. So when you come to thinQ, you can set us up and have 40 carriers that are in route for the calls that you make. And scaling across that size of a network without having to sign individual agreements is very simple. And the great news, Matt, too, right, is that our average customer saves anywhere from 40 to 70% on their voice costs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it continues on. I've seen even larger sales than that, or savings than that.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, in this case, here's an example we love to use that, somebody came to us using, had set up an IVR using TWILIO. We know, TWILIO, Nexmo, Plivo, SignalWire, these are all names of very well-known companies where people set up these applications that primarily use voice and a little bit of messaging sometimes. And in this case, when they came to us, they were able to send us 30 days of call data through TWILIO in this case. And they were scaling very rapidly. And I think anybody on this call who is using TWILIO, Nexmo, Plivo knows that when you're small and you're creating an application that doesn't have a lot of traffic on it, the costs don't really matter that much. They're not a big cost of goods of the service or product that you're offering. But once you start to scale, it gets really expensive, really fast. And I know TWILIO, Matt, right, in particular, if you want to go from 1 or 2 calls per second to 5 or 10, it's many thousands of dollars to do that, right?
Yeah, the way that they charge is going to certainly rack up the price. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So in this case, they came to us, and as they were growing, you can see here they were paying 0.012 per minute, a $15,000 a month phone bill basically for their voice services. And when they made one code change in their TWILIO setup without any other alteration, they were able to drop it to basically below 5. So, I mean, how great would it be for you to be able to save 83% on your voice bill and go to your CFO and say, hey, in this time of where we got to watch every dollar, we made one code change and I was able to, reduce our voice bill by 2/3, and better call quality, more calls delivered, all the tools I need to research and do the things I need to do to make sure my voice is stable, and I get access to thinQ. It's just, to us, it's a win-win-win, which is why we're doing these webinars, right, Matt?
Yeah, and it really is as simple as a single line of code to be changed.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the biggest thing is, we're not looking to replace TWILIO, we're looking to enhance, and we're looking to optimize and provide a better way, provide them a better way to do what they do.
That's exactly. That's right. A better way to communicate. I like it. You should tell the marketing guy that. I think that's a good line. So if we take a look here, guys, so really the way thinQ works is primarily through, a set of APIs. So it's very simple. If you're a developer, I already mentioned TWILIO, Plivo, Nexmo, SignalWire, that you're able to integrate thinQ into the products. And you can see here the difference in the outbound, price per minute. And one of the things too that we don't talk enough about, I think, Matt, is if you place a call through TWILIO and you hang up the phone, it's going to round up to the nearest minute when you're charged for that call. Not only is it more expensive, but you're paying for more time. And with thinQ, the rate is, it's 0.013 instead of 0.0042. I'm sorry, we're 0.0042, they're 0.013. And we only round to every 6 seconds, which is one of the big drivers of those savings, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So really what it's all about, and of course we also offer toll-free. So what it's really all about is being able to make that single code change to your TWILIO application, in particular Plivo, Nexmo, and add up to 40 carriers without any negotiation, and deliver that 40 to 70% savings, which is really what it's all about. So that's the easy way to integrate us into what the existing things are that you have. Our voice network is global. You know, we do serve over 170 countries with these 40 carriers. I'm sure you recognize a lot of these icons across the bottom of the screen for these carriers. But Think is very, very careful about, we don't add carriers very often, Matt. In fact, I can think of maybe, we may have added 4 to the network since I've been here for a year and a half. I mean, we spend a lot of time adding in carriers, testing them with a lot of different types of traffic to make sure that the call quality is there, that the cost savings is there, that the support is there for us long before it ever makes it onto our network. So we're very, very, very picky about that. At the end of the day, we really are a full communication platform as a service, right? So we're in the cloud. You use a couple lines of code. Whether you're an independent carrier, a VoIP provider, you know, ILEC, CLEC, enterprise, you use Twilio, there's a fit for Think to add our least cost routing software through our API to deliver the calls and deliver those savings to you. And really, at the end of the day, that's how the world is working now. You know, it's not a big piece of clunky hardware that has a bunch of copper coming in the back. It's a bunch of lines of software code through an API that communicate in the cloud over the internet to power these services and make them super flexible and save you guys a ton of money. And you can see across the bottom here, so we do offer, you know, outbound least cost routing, so outbound calling. We do inbound. You can buy phone numbers from us. We do, again, that's origination. We also do SMS MMS, which is one of our newest products that's been growing tremendously, because it's not just about voice anymore, it's also about messaging. So if we have to talk, Matt, if you can walk us through a little bit, you know, on the cloud voice solution, you know, really what makes ours, you know, pretty unique out there in the marketplace, it's all right here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the key piece, and I think we kind of touched on it pretty kind of vaguely at the very beginning, is, you know, what we're providing is access to over 40 different carriers for your voice traffic. It's as if you have a direct connection or a direct contract with each one of those carriers. Instead of, you know, what you currently may be using, which could be having a contract with 1, 2, or maybe a different platform that has like maybe 3 or 4, whatever they do, you know, you have access to 40 different carriers for all of your network traffic. And these are all of the top tier carriers. And in one of the slides up ahead, we'll actually show you all of those carriers, you know, some of those carriers to give you an example. And, you know, the nice piece about that is it adds all of those extra layers of redundancy. The fact that you're able to get your calls if for one reason, you know, the first carrier that the call attempts to, if it fails, you know, if it throws a SIP 503, meaning that it errors out the call, we'll hop over to another carrier and try and make that call. We will complete the call at whatever cost we can, you know, at all attempts that you've set as far as your parameters go. You know, we will always attempt or try to make that call. And the nice thing about it is, if, you know, with our backbone of all of these different carriers, if for some reason we can't connect that call, nobody can make that call. That's our key piece. You know, if you know, all of the carriers that we have, if for some reason that we're not able to do it, then that means that nobody's able to make that call. And that's as simple as that. You know, that's right. The way that our platform works. You know, because of the fact, you know, the idea is, you know, for some of the areas that your calls may be going across, you know, if you only have one carrier, they may not be the primary carrier in that area. They may not actually own the copper wires in that area. So therefore, that carrier is going to get a surcharge for using that, you know, for using their network, which eventually gets back to you one way or another. Whereas with our solution, we're not only going based off of the least cost route, but we're also a smart routing technology where we're going to figure out what is the best route as far as quality, as far as location, as far as, you know, price. We're looking at all of those things as far as figuring out who's going to be the best person to go to. For an example, you know, lower New York, I believe it's Manhattan, it's primarily run through Verizon. They're the ones who own the copper wires over there. So what we'll end up doing is we will go directly to Verizon rather than trying to go over AT&T or over someone else. The reason being is because you're not only going to get the cheapest route because it's their network, you're going to get the better quality because it's direct connect to that specific carrier that owns the copper wires, and you're not have to do any carrier negotiations between bouncing across all of the different carriers. It's directly to them. It goes direct. You know, it's a perfect solution for that.
Yeah, and on top of that, Matt, I think one of the things our customers really love is that it's to kind of not just enabling all 40 of these carriers to enable that voice failover and outage mitigation and increased call delivery, but it's also kind of on the other side. It's also about doing these custom route blocks, right? So if you suddenly have an issue in a certain location, you can go down to the actual, the last three digits of, the center three digits of any phone number down to that level and say, turn off Verizon or whatever in this location based on the research tools that we have for the next, 7 to 30 days or whatever, or turn it back on whenever you like. So the custom route blocks really help you without having to file a support ticket, right? If you find any call quality or outage issues, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the nice key feature between us and kind of everyone else is, when you're trying to deal with a carrier directly, or if you're dealing with a Twilio or TWILIO or whoever, they may be able to do those kinds of things, but they're doing it on your behalf, right? They'll be moving your traffic from one carrier to another, but they won't tell you who they removed, what they moved you to. They won't tell you when that carrier is going to get reintroduced into your network. They might, but more than likely not. And then on top of all of this, you have to wait for them to investigate to figure out what the problem is, which could be, basic SLAs is like 24 hours for the first response time, right? That's just far too long, as far as traffic, as far as failed traffic goes. You can't allow that. So what our solution does is we put the power back in your hands where you can see what carriers are not doing it for you, especially in those particular areas. You're able to go in and surgically remove that carrier from that specific area. That's the unique piece about our solution is as Tim mentioned, you could get as granular as the area code plus the first three digits and say, I do not want this carrier trying to make calls to that area. Yep. That carrier can still do traffic to all of the other area codes, even that same area code, but those first three digits, that carrier is not allowed. And you can set that, and as soon as you hit save, it takes less than 15 minutes from the start of investigation to resolution of the problem.
Yep. And we have lots and lots of testimonials on our website about companies who, had 200, 300 DIDs in a contact center. They had a big outage. I think a couple of years ago, there was a big level 3 outage. I think it was the middle of the summer. And literally within, it took about 30 to 40 minutes to really accomplish it. We're able to reposition those DIDs to remove level 3 from all their call profiles and their carrier profiles and start delivering calls again. Meanwhile, everybody else in the area had an outage that I think it lasted almost 2 days. And the only reason they were able to do it was because we gave them the tools inside of our platform, and it made it simple. So it's something to think about. Nobody wants downtime. So if we keep going, I'm noticing the time here. I want to make sure we get to some questions. Matt, one of the things I know you've been working a lot with us on our new-ish SMS MMS product. It's been around about 1.5 years now, and just let people know a little bit about that. It's kind of another API-driven tool in our toolbox that people have really been asking for.
Sorry. Yeah. No. Yes. It's sorry. I didn't realize it was an open question. Yeah. No. It's been blowing up lately. And obviously with everyone being at home and everyone needing access, text messaging has kind of even grown even further than what it was previously. Text messaging was the number one way of communication for companies to individuals. And has over 80% or 90% success rate and an 80 or 90% viewage rate or something. It's incredibly high for both sending and viewing of content. And it's just much more than what you're going to get with voice or email or any of those other solutions. And so obviously SMS is needed, in so many different ways, whether it's the simple things of carriers and customer care or just the marketing campaigns or telehealth or, password notifications or, two-step verifications, whatever it is, text messaging is there because everyone has a cell phone. Everyone's got a newer phone. Even my mom, who's still has her old flip phone, from 15 years ago, it still has SMS. It still works as SMS. So you're literally able to reach everybody with SMS.
That's right. And I think, Matt, the range of use cases we've seen here are, alert to notifications, two-factor authentication, marketing campaigns, and just kind of general alerts, on a customer service side as well, right? So lots of different ways to use it and lots of different ways to integrate it. So Matt, I know, this is just to give people a glimpse of what our platform looks like. You can see here, this is a login screen for our LCR platform. You create your profiles here. You can buy and provision numbers here, and really do everything you need to do inside of the platform. Of course, at the end of the day, when you integrate it, it's all here, done through the API level where you can get to all those different pieces and parts and really learn more about that. And this is just a brief look at how you can create a profile. And again, I think, Matt, this is the best part, is where you get to, this is where you get down to the carrier level. You can see here what you can turn on and turn off, right?
Yeah, and what's interesting is that, as you can see here, we have, these are just a small sample of the carriers that are actually on that list. You have the ability that they're categorized in certain ways. If you're not doing high volume traffic, turn those carriers off because there's no point in using them. If you're not looking for any kind of regional like Alaska or Puerto Rico, if you're not wanting any of that kind of traffic to go across your network, or if you're concerned for fraudulent calls that may end up on your network, disable those carriers. They're completely fine. And the nice thing is it's fully customizable. We're not forcing you to use one carrier over the other. Our contracts with them are they are what they are. There's no special thing about it. We're not trying to favor one carrier over the other. And a common question we get is when we try to explain that scenario of, how to choose one carrier versus the other for the calls, the common question is, well, why don't I turn on all of them just to give myself the best option? The answer is,
Sure.
Is that typically what most people do? Most people are going to enable all of the different carriers, but there are scenarios and there are situations where some carriers do better than others in certain regions, or for whatever customer we're dealing with, their scenario may be different than somebody else's. There may be instances where BrightLink is not a very good carrier for your customer base. So why we even go through the trouble of enabling them if they're not even worth your time in the region that you're trying to reach?
Yeah, and I think, Matt, you'd agree that we find that the customers who have like a wide call dispersal pattern, really do the best. So there's a lot of folks that have like a regional or a state level call center where a majority of the calls are within that state. Yep. Software definitely works, but there's a much more finite number of carriers that serve that small area. Especially if you have a national call center or a need to get calls from those 170 countries, but primarily North America. We really have you covered with all 40 of these carriers that serve, U.S., Canada, right, at the end of the day.
Yeah, and what's nice about this too is that, this is what's called a profile within our solution here. You create profiles by enabling all of these various carriers. What's nice about our solution is you can actually create as many profiles as you need. There's no limit as far as how many you can create. So you could have some customers that are very, very specific as far as the number of carriers that you want enabled. And then you could have some carriers that just have all of them enabled. Right. You can set it up to be however you need it to be, based off how many customers you have. You can have
Right.
multiple customers using the same profile. That's completely fine. There's no issues with that.
That's right. All right, Matt, I see we're getting right up against our time here, which is great. Thanks for all your insights here. One of the questions that I can answer this one, Matt, is, how do we get started in terms of really seeing how good of a fit it will be in terms of, cost savings, interoperability? And really what I recommend is go to our website, thinQ with a Q on the end. Obviously, you see down there in the corner, click that Get a Demo button in the upper right-hand corner. And, Matt and a member, of our cloud specialty team can really work with you. And one of the things, Matt, I know that we do really well is, if we can get people to send us a CDR of their last 30 days of calls, which is literally just the two number, the destination number and the call duration, we can literally run that through our machine learning powered system and see how much you would have paid if you had routed those calls through thinQ, right? And that gives people a real clear picture of what our average rate is compared to what they paid and how much they would have saved. Yeah,
it would look very similar to that previous slide that we had with that Twilio piece. It would look kind of similar to that. It would basically, show how many minutes and what you would have cost, spent with us instead. And it's been incredibly helpful in that kind of aha moment for a lot of our potential customers that we're talking with.
Yeah, in fact, let me flash back to that as well, just while we're talking about it. Yeah, this is basically what the report would end up looking like. It might not be as complicated as this, especially if you're not using thinQ. If you're not using Twilio. because Twilio kind of charges their own fees, and then they layer on, the carrier costs for the voice, the completed calls. If you're an enterprise company and you have a VoIP provider and you're trying to find out whether we'd be a better deal than they are, then that's much more simple, right? We just need to know what your call volumes look like. So Matt, somebody here had a question about texting. They said, do you do P2P or A to P? How does that work?
Yeah, so our primary focus is on the A to P platform, which is essentially means application to person, or application to person. Essentially, that's kind of like the business related type traffic, right? Certainly, it's going to be kind of less of the conversational type traffic, but more along the lines of password resets or appointment reminders or customer care, or hey, your Amazon package is on the way, or your technician's on the way. What that type of traffic. Certainly, we have a methodology where you can send some of that conversational traffic across that. These classifications of A to P and P to P is kind of more on the carrier side of things as far as how they're classifying certain traffic within their network. But what we've done is we've made sure that our network and our infrastructure is set up in a way that we're set up to be able to have the best deliverability and sending rates, and that's by using this A to P kind of platform.
That's right. All right, so Matt, I appreciate your time today. I know we're a little bit over here, but I just want to tell everybody on the call, that we know that working from home in the cloud is kind of the new normal, and thin's cloud solutions can really help with your voice and your messaging needs. And we're really here to help companies not only get access to 40 carriers in the cloud, but also, get more calls per second, get higher quality calls, but at the best possible price, as well as handle their messaging traffic. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, we'd love to take a look at your unique need. We know everybody is so different, Matt. Go to thinQ.com, click that get a demo button, and give us 10, 15 minutes to walk through. What are you seeing now? Can we take a look at your call data and see if there's a fit for us? Because if there's a better way to do it for you, there's a better way for us to do it for you. And we're just here to serve folks who have those needs. And now's a great time, especially as you want to go into your next executive meeting with your CFO and CEO and say, hey, maybe I found a way to save, again, 50 to 75% on our voice traffic. Every dollar really counts. And we hope that everybody stays, safe and healthy. And again, we're just here to help in any way that we can. So Matt, appreciate your time again.
Absolutely.
And,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem at all. Appreciate it. And we'll be sending a recording of this to all the registrants. And we thank all, and look, we had 27 people on here, Matt. That's pretty nice.
Nice.
Appreciate all you guys spending, 30 minutes with us, and we'd love to continue the conversation. So have a great afternoon, everybody, and watch for that email. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day, Matt.
Bye.